To answer your question about using intraday LVNs and how do I chart them, it depends on the setup. There are two main things that I use them for. I use them for trailing stops and for a setup in itself to enter a trade or exit a trade, as anybody would. What I'm going to start out with, I know that you said you're comfortable with using the longer term, larger time frame, etc. Profile for your larger levels. But I want to have those levels really quickly so that when we zoom into our intraday chart and look at the intraday profile, we have context for where price is. And also, when I'm setting these levels here, this truly does pertain to how I look at a swing profile in general. Now, I look at some different profiles, and this is where it can get really confusing. But just like a time frame that you like, um, 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour, weekly, monthly, 5 minute, 3 minute, it's the same with profiles. They're all different time frames. And so it depends on what you want to look at and which time frame is telling you a story of recent interest, of liquidity, of behavior, of patterns, if that's what you like to look at, of volume builds that gives you a story for, or context or narrative for a setup to enter a trade. And so there's a couple different profiles I like to look at. I really love swing profiles. What is a swing profile? Swing profile is like the range that price has been in, and that's the one I'm going to make here. Or the last leg, like a leg to leg profile. So the last swing, the last up, the last down. And this could be the last up in a range that is weeks long. It could be the last up in an intraday session that happened 5 minutes ago, So like I said, it all depends on the time frame that you're wanting to look at. So this is the general context of how I chart these range slash swing profiles regardless of the time frame. Right here, I'm on a weekly profile. And so what I'm going to look at is where is price in a range? It is in a range from here to here. Okay, so that's the range that I'm going to want to chart a profile. But where do I start it? I have learned from some others and from reading that I like to start it when price initiated out of a prior consolidation. So that is a change in price delivery out of that consolidation and into a new range, out from balance into imbalance to find balance in a new balance zone. That's going to sound really confusing. But basically, look at this consolidation here, consolidation, balance. Look at this consolidation here, consolidation, balance. And what do we have in between? Imbalance. People call it a breakout. It's called many different things, but you get my idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at where price was hitting resistance, which was right here. And then where did price test it when it initiated out to tell us we were going to continue up, which was this candle right here. See that wick? So there is your pivot. And that is where I'm going to start my profile. All right, so I'm going to draw a profile here. And I'm going to start it right where price initiated out of. Okay, so there's our main profile of the price action that has happened in this range. Now, when I chart LVNs, I want to look at the top and the bottom of a profile first. So here I see the top and here I see the bottom. I'm going to do this really quickly. I'll do one LVN like I typically do, where I really, really zoom in and get really perfect about it. And then the other ones I'll just throw on super fast for the sake of time here. Okay, so we'll put that right here. Okay. So there's the top. And now let's get to the bottom of most of this volume. Okay, so there's our really large profile for this range. And our really large boundaries of the profile, or the main parts of the volume for this range. My gosh, if I can actually make this work. Oh, I'm so sorry. I really am trying to go quick and not waste time in this video. And here I am. That's really what I need to do. Okay. All right. Let's get a move on. Okay, so here's our range. You can see there's our balance zone, right? So you can see here that price was respecting this LVN and not going through it, not interested into creating balance or supply above. And here it zoomed through, came out, retested, and then rebound. And so this here is when I'm looking for price to break out per se, it's literally this setup that I'm always looking for. Out of consolidation. Do I enter yet? I'm usually not entering yet unless I have a position down here. I let it come through the LVN. I let it come back down and test. Then we enter on a smaller time frame for extension up through a balance zone or price discovery. Okay. So you'll see that this is very similar to the profile we saw in the session this day and today. And we're looking at a weekly chart here that this profile goes all the way back to the beginning of the year. Okay. What this is a very nice Gaussian curve or bell-shaped curve. And so that is a key setup that tells me that price is going to rotate from bottom to top to bottom to top in a relatively predictable manner or statistically predictable manner. Okay. Okay, back to our LVNs. So now, because I'm not going to be trading intraday a range that goes from 49.40 to 53.60, of course not, right? So I'm going to mark a couple other LVNs that I'm still going to consider primary for intraday trading that are going to mark some of these smaller balance zones that we have on this profile. So let's throw this one on really quickly, and I'll show you where I see the other ones, but I'm not going to mark them because I don't think that they're going to really matter for this explanation. This is what I typically like to do. I like to squish it in and see, kind of squint, see where do I really see the deepest parts of these LVNs that are going to really, really matter to me. And then I'm going to look at, you see, this is a balance zone here. This is a balance zone here. And then down here is a balance zone, right? So I'm going to look at the bottom of this balance zone, what my eye kind of sees it, all right? And let's zoom in a little bit. So that was right here. And I'm going to look at how far out does this volume come? The volume comes out to right here. Now, where is its equal counterpart that comes out that far? It's down here, all right? So that is where I'm going to make the boundary of the LVN. So let me go through that one more time. I'm showing you why I'm not extending the LVN down to here. I'm not extending it down to here, even though I know this is lower volume, because I'm looking at comparing, is price interested in the volume up here, or is it interested in the volume down here? And I want those to be somewhat equal so that I can gauge where interest is. Okay, that I can say, okay, there's equal volume here and there's equal volume here, but price is choosing this side. And this is the direction or the narrative in my head of the direction where price is going. So that's why I created this LVN from here to here. And then generally, I'll put a couple steps in there of the deeper portions of the LVN if it's really large to give me an idea intraday just in case I need it if price is just kind of ping-ponging back and forth in the LVN to give me a general idea of direction. But like I said, I will generally not enter in an LVN. I'll let it get outside, retest, and tell me where it wants to go. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you where I saw the other LVNs, but I'm not going to go through and really mark them to save time. But to me, this here is a key LVN. Okay. And then here's a key LVN. Maybe I would mark this one here as well. So I see one balance zone, two balance zone, three balance zone, and then kind of like this four or three and four together. I know that things will get choppy in here is what it's telling me. But one, two, three main balance zones that I would mark for this entire profile. Okay, now that we have those higher time frame LVNs, let's go to a smaller time frame chart. So here is a 30-minute chart. And the open for me in my time zone is 6:30 a.m. So I'll mark that here for context, okay? And then the open of Globex for me here is 1500 or 3 o'clock. There we go. Okay. So what you were asking about, how do I use intraday profiles or intraday LVNs? So like I said, I use them either as a setup or I use them to trail stops. Now there are a handful, many different kinds of setups with intraday profiles. One that presented today, and that's why I like to use this one as an example in answering this question, is because it was a Gaussian curve, just like that weekly profile or weekly chart was showing that Gaussian curve on the larger profile. And so this is a really key setup that you can use intraday. And basically, the idea is that with it being such an equal bell curve, you're going to have the expectation that price is mainly rotating from the bottom to the top, to the bottom to the top, to the bottom to the top. So some people ask me, how do you anticipate it's going to be a range day? There's a lot of different things you can anticipate a range day, but one thing I use is more of like a almost like as a okay, this is definitely a range day and I can now get a couple more trades out of this is a Gaussian profile. And I will mark main border LVNs just like I did on the larger profile on that intraday session profile, and you can use it to help you gauge the range and have a more statistically based idea of when to enter rather than just fading the edges blindly, if that makes sense, because you know that price is rejecting any volume above and then rejecting any volume below and wanting to stay in the range, or put it another way, that the participants that are the larger players and currently trading in that range are still doing the business of accumulation, distribution, whatever you want to call it, absorption in that range from that bottom to the top. Okay. All right. So looking at this profile, now we are looking at this profile a little bit in hindsight. Well, not a little bit. We are looking at it in hindsight, yes. But I do know that the profile, I was talking about this with a friend around Euro close. Okay. So, what you can see here, this is my normal platform, but here is Globex open, and here is the open on the day, or I'm sorry, RTH open. And then I have a profile here. That's this small little profile here. So I'm going to show you how it changed. Okay. So this is what it looked like when the day opened, when RTH opened. This is not Gaussian, right? You have a lot of volume at the bottom and it's more scant there up top. And then you can see as we kind of get further into the day, it's starting to round out. And so probably about here, actually it's only about an hour in, you start to get these rejections. When you start to get these rejections right here, and you have this somewhat equal, distribution, even though this is like so empty in here still, um, you could start to fade these edges that using this LVN here to lean against. And then as the day moves on even more, the volume obviously starts to fill in the middle, and here's Euro close. And so now we definitely have like a much more nice rounded profile by this point. And you can see as the day goes, it just kind of continues to be that rounded, generally rounded shape. Okay, so I'm going to show you in Trading View, since you're saying this is your platform of choice, so it's a little bit more familiar, the LVNs that I would mark. Okay, so here we see I've got this nice one here. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then we have this one on the edge here. All right. But then I really want edge LVNs that are going to mark for me where volume really starts to build. And remember how I was saying um, I want to look at that equal volume. So I have this LVN right here. Let me hide this so we can see a little bit better. Okay, so we have this LVN right here, and the volume comes out to about here, okay? And it's right at value area low, and then we have a volume drop off here. So what I'm gonna do, so I like that equal distribution there, that equal volume. So I'm gonna mark this here, and I'm gonna use that for entries. Let's go to where that little beacon part is. Okay, and then I'm gonna mark this volume drop off about, yeah, like that ledge there. So I'll also use that to gauge the back and forth of the range. Okay. All right, so let's lock these and then we will go to a smaller time frame and look at how this played out. Okay, so here's our 3 minute. So like I said, here's Globex open and then here's RTH open. Okay, and we said that it was about Euro close. It was starting to become to feel like a little bit more obvious or safer to enter trades of this range trade based on this setup of the Gaussian profile. And so that's where this line is here. There's Euro close. And those borders are either going to give us an idea that price is wicking away and going to go back up into the range. Or if it does come below, I would want to see it come below, wick away from here, come back up through here, retest, and then come back up. But fortunately, it really just ping-ponged back and forth. So you got, after Euro close, you got about one, two, I don't know if I would have done that, three, four, five solid trades there. If you look on the 3 minute, I generally am looking on volume candles, but I think this 3 minute looks pretty similar to the volume candles I was looking at today. And so you got a good, handful of trades there to trade the range using the volume profile LVNs during the session with the specific setup of a Gaussian curve. Now, of course, like I said, there are other setups to use with other shaped profiles. If you have any questions about those, happy to use those as well. Or happy to explain those as well. When I was saying that I like to trail stops, if we go to back to that session profile, let's say that price broke out during RTH and not just after, and I was going to trade, this breakout. Like if I traded the downside, I shorted this rejection and then held some runners through the breakthrough of this LVN. So if we go to the shorter time frame to look at that, so see how price comes down here, comes through the LVN, comes back above, and then comes back down. So when it tests above and then comes back down, then I would move my stop from here down to here, okay? And then when it comes back down through this LVN, tests it, rejects it, and comes back down, then I move my stop to here. So what I'm doing is I'm using the intraday LVNs, primary LVNs, to lean against to trail my stops. That's another thing that I use it for. And then, like I said, there's the other setups like a ledge setup, a LVN return. There's a lot of things people look at. If you have any questions about those, if I have the answers, because I am, like I said, I'm still learning myself, I'm happy to answer them. But this is one of my main setups is that Gaussian curve on any time frame. And then I also look at profiles that are like 4 week rolling and 5 day rolling. And then I use MGI or market generated information from weekly and monthly levels that I have an indicator that puts it on my chart. I don't necessarily look at those profiles, just the levels, but then I look at the 5 day and the 4 week rolling to see where recent positioning is and what the pattern is or what direction it's going and what the behavior is like. Like I said, I'm not a total expert at this, but it's what I've been studying and how I'm trading and how I'm profitable at the moment.